Hello, and thank you for joining us for our fourth virtual version of Dialogues on Design. I'm David Sproles, the president of the New York School of Interior Design. In a moment, you'll hear from Dennis Scully, the host of the Business of Home podcast, who joins us again as the curator of these programs. He'll be joined by the talented and timeless designer, Susan Zises Green. Before that happens, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of the donors who have already given to support NYSED scholarship funds. For the past year, our students have been facing unprecedented health and job market challenges head on, and we've been amazed by their resolve and hard work. Unfortunately, many are experiencing unforeseen financial difficulties which could impact their education. All donations for Dialogues on Design go directly to our General Scholarship Fund, as well as our Diversity Scholarship Fund, to assist these talented students with their studies. I'd also like to thank those who have sponsored this season of Dialogues. Please know your generosity is greatly appreciated, not just by me, but also the students you are helping. They are Benjamin Moore, Kate Brodsky, Alexa Hampton, Holly Hunt, Dennis Miller, Betsy Ruprecht, Maria Spears, Newell Turner, Kelly Williams, The Shade Store, and our guest today, Susan Zises Green. And now, please enjoy this dialogue between Dennis and Susan.
Thank you, David, and welcome everyone to another installment of our virtual Dialogues on Design series. I'm excited that this evening we're going to be speaking with one of our own. Renowned interior designer Susan Zises Green is not only a NYSED graduate, but also a member of our board of directors and a generous contributor to the school. We're thrilled to have her here. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. I am so delighted to be here with you. Look forward to this time spending together.
Well, I've been looking forward to it myself, and I'm so glad that we're finally together, and I can't possibly move on until we've talked about the fabulous painting behind you. So tell me.
The painting I have had since I'm in my early 20s, which was only a few years ago.
We don't have to say how long ago that was.
So it's by a gentleman named Prestopino. I'm sorry, I've gone blank on his first name, but his last name is Prestopino.
We'll just go with Prestopino. I mean, that sounds good to me.
I call it my faux Gauguin, but it's very colorful and very cheerful. And it's in a room in our office that I call the Scream Room. It's where anyone can come here just to get away from all the activity downstairs.
Is that right? Now, does your life require a Scream Room? Tell us about that.
No, you know what decorating is like. It can be a little tension-filled. Sometimes you just have to get away to a quiet place.
Well, so should we get into that a little bit, Susan? Because
no.
part of these are about preparing our design students for their future careers, and already you're telling them they might need a Scream Room. I'm wondering.
Design is a fascinating career, and it's not always easy, but nothing worth having is easy. So I encourage all of you just to go forth and conquer.
Well, good advice there. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in interior design.
My parents worked with the late decorator David Barrett. He was instrumental in my career. He was very supportive of me. My parents had a wonderful house, and I always went shopping with them. And I went on just about every shopping foray with David. And one day he said to me, "Child, you have a talent. Go to decorating school." And so I went to the New York School of Interior Design. And then David Barrett offered me a job. And my mother said, "Do not work for him. You'll be fetching coffee for 2 years. Go out on your own." So that's what I did. I went out on my own.
That's a big step.
I was courageous and I had confidence. And David said I had talent. It was a mistake not to have worked for him, but I did go forth. I made one mistake after another, but I never made the same mistake twice. And that actually, I say to all the students, is not a bad thing. Making a mistake gives you confidence. You know you'll never do it again. It's a learning experience. And I'm still here 40-odd years later. So I've done okay with my mistakes.
Well, but it's interesting though, and you and I have spoken in the past about this. In a way, you wish you had gone to work for David, and you feel that you might have learned a great deal under his tutelage. Speak about that a little bit.
It's actually very true. And I had another mentor in my time which was Kevin McNamara. You're all too young to know Kevin. He died a number of years ago. But my parents had a wonderful house and they wanted me to decorate it. And I was very young. This was after David Barrett. And I truly, because I was so young, I didn't have the confidence to do it. But I did a floor plan for one of the major rooms, and Kevin McNamara used my floor plan. Then I was kind of sorry that, I gave him the job. He had just left he had just left Macmillan, and my parents' home was his first big project when he was on his own. And in turn, he was very kind to me. He invited me to his office. He had one of his women set up my business practice, giving me his forms to use. And I learned a lot from Kevin. He really was very kind to me, and he really appreciated me handing this job over to him. And I was beyond flattered that he used my exact floor plans. So that was a good feeling. I then had a bit of regret because I realized I really could have done the job. I just simply didn't have the courage because of my youthful years. So never let your youth stop you from doing anything.
From jumping in and
yes,
and just
exactly, with 2 feet, and don't be afraid of making a mistake. They're not life-threatening. Anything that can be corrected is okay.
Well, so and you sort of talked about making a bunch of mistakes when you first got started, as one does. What sort of mistakes did you make, and what did you learn? And tell me about that.
I remember one very early one. There were 2 that I'll tell you about. One very early one was not recognizing that once I had measured the curtains, they'd be sitting on carpeting, and so they puddled too much. So I always learned to measure the carpet, measure the padding. You have to take all measurements into consideration. My second mistake, which was the biggest mistake I ever had in my life, was for a gentleman's apartment. And in those days, I would write X amount of yardage from such and such company, and I would write the style number, and I would do the same thing with the trim. And I had the cost, the retail. I always worked at retail. I had the retail cost, but I did have all the numbers. So, and we did then, and we still do it now, that we present rooms as a package. We try and get every single estimate, room by room, presented to the client. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, living room, dining room. The package was sent over to his office. And what happened to me was, because every single number and style number was there, is the client had his secretary place all the orders.
Oh, no.
And so after all of that work, I never earned a dime. And it was such a terrible experience for me, because I was raised in a family that had tremendous integrity. You would never do that to anyone, ever. Your word was your bond, your handshake was your seal. And that's very important in business, that your word be your bond and you never let people down. I never tell anyone I can do something unless I know that I personally can do it.
Tell me about how your work sort of evolved over time. Was there a specific style or ability that you had coming?
My work evolved as it does with all of us with time. We learn as we age. We learn from our experience. You learn by instinct also. I'm a very instinctive person. I've always followed my heart. I'll tell you one more story. I had a client who was quite well known. He was written up in Forbes magazine, and they had a fabulous house. And I had gone to their home with my then assistant. We had huge floor plans. I tell you this story so that you all learn a lesson. Every item of furniture was numbered, and there was a number on every room, on every piece of furniture. And the client, I had always worked where I always thought that once I decorated and had the estimates done, my job was done. I had done my work, and I wanted to be paid for it. And I never wanted to be a banker. And I hope you'll follow my advice, because so many young people don't get paid on the balance of their jobs. So I was always paid in advance, because as I got older, the jobs got larger and more money was involved. And I was not a banker. I was a decorator. I never wanted to pay for the job. So when I go back to the story I'm telling you, I had opened all the floor plans. I had presented everything to the wife and the husband. And the husband sat back in his chair and he said, Susan, I really don't like your contract. I really don't want to pay you in advance. I will pay you 50% down now, and I will pay you the balance after everything is installed. And my instinct told me that I would never get paid. I would have to chase him. And you young people, you must always follow your gut, because your gut is always right. And so I stood up. I folded all the floor plans up. I asked my assistant to fold all the fabrics up. And I said, Mr. So-and-so, I'm so terribly sorry you don't like my contract. You've had 5 months to think about it. It's taken me all those months to do this job. It was quite a large project. And there'll be a lot of decorators out there that will work the way you want to. But I'm sorry, I can't do it. And his wife looked at me and grabbed my arm and said, Susan, sit down. And she looked at her husband and said, please sign those checks. My point is, you have to trust your instinct and you have to be willing to walk away, because it could have had a totally different outcome. But I knew I was not going to do all of this work and then have to chase the client for the balance. And I knew I'd have to do it. My instinct told me that. And I'd known enough decorators who had had that experience. And so I had flashbacks of listening to other decorators' stories. And I didn't want to be one telling that story to somebody else.
And as you say, it is a business, and I know that can be challenging. And many designers discover once they really get into working in interior design, discover how much of their time is spent sort of running the business versus designing.
But it's very important for all of you to be able to put your head on the pillow at night and have a good night's rest to meet the challenges of the next day. And you'll be able to do that more happily if you're getting paid for your work.
That helps you sleep at night?
You bet.
Well, so I'm keen to see more of this apartment that you're in, and I think that we've got some photographs that are going to take us inside. So tell me where we're starting here in this sort of beautiful hallway.
It is a hallway. It's a coat closet behind those doors. And this is an apartment that is like a little brownstone in an apartment building. It's very cozy, and it's always been, I raised my children in this apartment, and I have wonderful memories of 39 years living here.
39 years you've been there?
Yes, and this apartment has had 3 major renovations, redecorations, and I think I'm at the last one right now. But let me share it with you. So let's open it up.
Please. I'd love to see.
So this is the entryway, and it wasn't always as bright as it is now, but in one of my renditions, my decorating renditions, I realized I no longer wanted curtains, heavy chintz curtains with valances. And once I decided to take the curtains off the windows, I said, oh my God, I had no idea my apartment was so bright.
There was so much light here all the time.
It was like somebody had turned on the lights. It was wonderful. So it has a light, airy feeling to it. Whereas in the past, I did, as most of you out there, went through the chintz stage, the Mario Boada look, and which was beautiful in its time. But, time changes people, and it changes backgrounds, and it changes your life. And change is wonderful. I love change. So the apartment has 3 floors, and it has limestone steps. I used to have limestone bricks on the floors painted by the late, great Robert Jackson. And then they started yellowing after about 20 years, 25 years. And so they had to go, and I painted everything white. And I just love being in a white surrounding. And I never painted anything white for my clients or myself. But the time was for a new look, and here it is. So let me share the look with you.
Please.
This is the dining room library. Well, there's a library upstairs, but this is the downstairs library. And I used to have a table in here that sat 18 people. And since it only got used twice a year, I decided it was best to redecorate and have a more user-friendly room. So to the left, behind this chair, is a wall full of built-in cabinets. There's a television in there, and there's music. And so it's very nice to come home from work and sit down and listen to the news, have a seat on the lavender couch or the black and white chair, turn the television on, sometimes have a drink, and just relax, look at the mail. It's a very user-friendly room. And this table, this round dining room table, was one that I used probably almost 50 years ago in another apartment when I was very young. And it was in storage for God knows how many years, and I decided to use it here. And this table will seat 14 and also up to 18 when it's extended with its 4 leaves. So it's really a wonderful table, and it's certainly stood the test of time. So always buy things you love, because you will never tire of them. And that's the Lavender Couch. This is a copy of a painting that was originally owned by Billy Baldwin, and he had sold his original to the Harding Lawrence family. And this is one of the copies. I think there were 10 copies made. And I had this when I was very, very young, and I always loved it, and I love it to this day. And there are a lot of colors in this room. I like color. And these are amethyst lamps on both sides of the room. And I love the pop of the blue with the lavender and the black and white. And as you'll see, nothing matches, but it's very harmonious. And it's a very happy room. Really happy. These are family photographs to the right of the lavender sofa.
Yeah, the lavender sofa is so beautiful and such a statement.
And I've had that sofa since I was 20 years old. So it shows you that good upholstered furniture lasts a lifetime.
You are buying the right furniture, clearly. Oh, and here we are at Kips Bay.
So here we are. So I spent a lot of time in this room. And, I just assumed that the furniture would either get sold or back to storage, which often has in the 10 show houses I participated in. And this room was a double height living room on the west side. And I think you may have other pictures of this room. And I loved it so much that it made me want to rip everything out of my living room and live with this furniture. And that is what I did. So
what was the idea behind this room originally that you did for Kips Bay? Who was this supposed to be, or what was the sort of imagined client?
The river was just mesmerizing, and the double height windows. It was open and airy, and I had very heavy draperies on my windows. There were 3 windows in that living room, and even though I thought it was very beautiful, all the time that I spent in this room chatting with people, I realized how much I enjoyed being here. It was very soothing. While I do think my living room was beautiful, it was anything but soothing because there was so much pattern on everything. And I love the quiet of this room. There was the repose in this room that I did not have in my living room. And I liked the white, I liked the lightness and the airiness of it. And because a lot of us did not get, a few things got sold out of this room, but most of it was left over. And rather than put it in storage, I decided just to put it in my living room. And that's what I did. And I've been happy ever since.
How great. So you ended up designing it for yourself, really.
But that was not my expectation. I didn't realize that I was unhappy with what I had until I was in this room, and it was glorious and light and airy and bright and peaceful and restful. And I tell you, all you young people, have restful apartments. It's really very good for your brain and your soul.
Well, and so what are the elements that you think make it restful? What did you realize later that you had done?
I think the colors, the soothing mocha color and the pale blue. There's lavender in this room. There's a lot of cream and white. There are touches of black, which is a neutral, and there's greenery. There was a lot of greenery in this room. You could see one of the trees. It was just easy on the eye. There was silk unlined striped curtains, which I've repurposed and used elsewhere. And it was just a very nice feeling to be in this room. And it has translated to my apartment in the same way, which is not on the river, does not have double height windows, but it's translated in the same calming way that I'm describing this room had for me. And this is one of my favorite projects. This is, again, Palm Beach. This is a family that I've decorated for over 40 years, done a number of projects for them. And when I finished the prior Palm Beach house, I remember saying, we've been together for so many years, I'm really going to miss you. And they said, don't be ridiculous, Susan. We've just bought a new house. You have to come see it. And so they bought this house, and the clients told me that every decorator in Palm Beach wanted to decorate it, but they said they were staying with me because, I understood them, and they were very loyal to me, which was very, very nice. This is a 25,000 square foot house.
25,000 square foot house.
Yes.
Wow.
With
Okay.
beautiful gardens, as I think you'll see on the inside. And these people have been wonderful over the years. This is one of 2 loges in the house with a fireplace and a fountain. And the pool was moved from one side of a lawn to this side. And it's Pecky cypress ceilings. And the family spends a lot of time out on this loggia. That is the living room. The walls are vanilla and waxed. It's Venetian wax paint. And I came to this house with 2 suitcases filled with color schemes. And I wanted to see the colors in the room, which colors I thought looked best. And the clients walked into the room as I was unpacking. And this was the first color scheme out of the box, out of the suitcase, I should say. And the clients both said, this is what I want. And I said, wait a second. I have 2 suitcases full of color schemes.
I
want
haven't
you to
even
see
started.
them. Right. I had done so much work. And they said, no, this is it. This is what we want. And that's what we did. And it's very soft. It's pink and coral and white and vanilla and beige and lots of and a little orange and lots of gradation of pink and corals. And it's really very pretty. There are a number of seating areas, and the clients say they are as comfortable with the 2 of them being in this home as there are 50 people being in this room. And that's a better view. Most of the furniture is very traditional. Much of it came from their home in Connecticut. But the painting is very contemporary, which I think made the room look much younger and more current.
Well, and you seemed to have in earlier things that you showed us brought very contemporary art into a more traditional seeming space. Tell me what that's about, or what that can achieve when you do that.
Well, I think it does not date a house if you have more contemporary painting and traditional furniture. It could be, you look at it and say, well, when was this decorated? When is this done? I think they're timeless rooms when you mix old and new together. And oddly enough, I had shown this painting to the clients a year before they purchased it. I always felt this painting was perfect for the room, but they were not ready to go that contemporary. And finally they realized, that they did like the painting, and I called the dealer to see if it was still available. And, it was meant to be for this room. This is the master bedroom. We did not it's a master bedroom suite. There are 2 bedrooms. And we did not use wall-to-wall carpet here. We just used skins, as you can see. When you're in bed, you're looking directly at the ocean, and the curtains are not overwhelming. They're pale blue, like the wallpaper. And it's a beautiful, beautiful ceiling. And the chandelier that's hanging in this bedroom was a chandelier that hung in the dining room in their prior Palm Beach home. We've repurposed everything. This is downstairs. There's a tin ceiling, silver tin ceiling that was original to this home. And the rug is a diamond pattern. It was custom woven for this project. And this room you walk out to the loggia, to one of the loggias. And this room can be very dark. You just, close the shades and there's a very large television in this room, actually the largest television I've ever seen in my life outside of a movie theater. It's like being in a theater. And this room is wood paneled. We had to remove a lot of the old and copy the original panel, but we still have some of the original in the room, and we just copied it, and it's really very beautiful, very, very pretty. And this is a very well-loved room. This is the dining room. When I walked into this house and I looked up in this room, there was this beautiful pale green in the ceilings, and I said to the clients, and this room will be lettuce green. And indeed, it is lettuce green. It's Venetian painted, and it's really, really pretty.
And it works. Were they nervous about you telling them it was going to be lettuce green, or did they?
Yes, they were, but they trusted me. They trusted me, and it's the perfect color. And then we have these beautiful, beautiful quilted curtains that we had made in India. And the fabric is really so pretty. I mean, they look like bedspreads, but they're curtains, and they're really, really pretty. And then the carpeting was pale coral and pale blue and a little bit of green, and it's very subtle, and it really looks pretty in this room.
Well, it's a really beautiful project. I'm so thrilled that you shared it with us. We're going to take a quick break right now, and we're going to hear a word from our friends at the Shade Store. And when we come back, we're going to travel from Palm Beach to Nantucket to share another beautiful project of Susan. So please come on back. This episode is brought to you by the Shade Store. Dedicated to the advancement of the interior design industry, the Shade Store proudly supports the New York School of Interior Design and its programming that continues to educate, inspire, and motivate the next generation of great designers.
So in 1946, our grandfather started in the industry by selling fabric off the roll. That company started in Mount Vernon, New York. My father joined the business and evolved that into custom window treatments, upholstery. The business was based around one thing, and that was primarily service. Today, that's absolutely the foundation of how we run our business. We are the go-to source for custom window treatment.
And we're back. We're going to transfer over from Palm Beach, this time to Nantucket, and visit a place called Noni's Nest. I can't wait to hear about this.
Noni is what my grandchildren call me. I wanted to be Nonna, which is an Italian name for grandmother. And when my first grandchild was born, she called me Noni, so she set the name. So Noni's Nest is a tiny little house on the beach on Nantucket. And when I was a small child, we used to go to the Rockaways. It was a far cry from Nantucket, but it was where we spent the summers. And some of my happiest memories were spent in the Rockaways with my grandparents. And it was a very small little cottage, just like this one. But my mother is one of 5 children, and her mother is one of 10 children. And all of my relatives made the migration from Brooklyn out to the Rockaways. And so we spent our summers there. We were on the beach all day. And we just I had a wonderful childhood with all my cousins and siblings. And I wanted my grandchildren to have the same memories, because the world is very different than when I was growing up. I wanted them to have memories of their grandmother the way I had memories of my grandmother. And so I tried my best, and we ended up with Noni's Nest, and it's a very beloved little house. And don't blink, because you will miss most of it. So let me share it with you.
I can't wait.
Okay. So it's a very tiny little place that I bought. It did not look like this. It had dark beadboard walls, and it had a loft, a sleeping loft on top, and it did have 3 tiny little bedrooms. And it's just what I wanted. The walls were the same color as the basket in the lower right-hand corner. And I bought this little property, and you can see the water out the windows from all sides of the house. So I bought this little property because it reminded me of my grandparents' little bungalow, and I wanted it to be just the way it was. But I did buy it with a condemned septic system, and I thought, this is no big deal. I can, figure this out and get it done. But Nantucket has very stringent rules, and so the septic system was quite expensive because of where the house was located. And once you got to a certain cost of renovating, you then had to update the entire house to code, which I did not know when I purchased this property. But as I said to all of you young people out there, you have to jump in with 2 feet. So I had to be a big girl.
These are the lessons.
Right. And just do it. And I did it. And it's my grandchildren and I sleep in this little place, not every day, but every once in a while. But I spend a lot of time out here. I'll go out by myself and just read a book. I'll have friends in for drinks. We have a separate little outbuilding that's called the ballroom. It's smaller than this room, but it's called the ballroom. And I have dinner parties there for grown-up people, not just my grandchildren. But I did decorate it with all of my children's artworks for when they were children, which is on the wall, because I don't throw anything away. So anything my children ever made, I still own, whether it was paper or ceramics or whatever. But it
Oh,
brings
how
me joy.
fantastic.
It really brings me joy. Their artwork brings joy. Anyhow,
It's a
all
beautiful
sides.
space. You managed to get so much furniture into spaces and yet not make it look crowded. I mean,
Oh,
it all
thank you.
seems to hold
It
together
has a
so well.
light. I think, Janice, it has a light area effect because the water's all around the house and the ceilings are high. And again, it's white and the floors are pale gray. And behind this sofa are two mirrored panels, sliding doors behind the sofa. And I put that there so that if you're seated opposite over here, across on these wall-to-wall couch, which is really two additional beds, you see the water wherever you're seated. And when you slide the mirrors, you see this huge television, which my grandchildren like. So this is a house to accommodate grandchildren, not me, to accommodate the grandchildren. I don't have huge televisions.
Well,
But
I'm sure they love it.
they love being out here. And we
Sure.
keep our fishing rods out here, and the kids like to fish. So we just walk down to the beach and they cast, their fishing rods in, and we have, all the toys you need for the water here: surfboards, fishing rods, paddle
And what are you
boards.
catching when you're fishing there? What do you catch?
You can catch all sorts of things. I mean, they have caught. Let me think. What is it called? Bluefish, which is very common out here. We come out here and we scallop. We go into the water here and we scallop in the fall.
Great.
My son is really the big fisherman, so he likes to come out here. And but the kids and I, will take rods. We generally don't catch anything, but the kids, take their nets and they catch the little tadpoles, and they like that. But they like the idea of fishing, and it's fun. It's just fun.
Well, I'm sure it's incredible memories for them to have, and what a lovely place to come and enjoy with the grandchildren.
So you can see the mirrored panels over here.
Yes.
And the television. And the bedrooms are very tiny. You have to walk around the bed sideways. And behind the upper map, there's a television. You just slide it over and there's a television there. And it's just a room for sleeping. And that's my bedroom. And the panel on the opposite the bed is part of the original house. It was under the sink, and it's a beautiful panel that the owner of the house had created. She was an artist. She was very creative, and I love having it. I felt very sad that I had to totally redo the house because I didn't want to, but I saved everything I could and reused it. And in fact, the owner's children, both owners were deceased, but the children came back to see the house, and I was very apologetic, saying the house is not, like it was when your parents bought it. And I told them the story of why I had to change it. And they were very kind and said that the layout was the same, and I kept the spirit of the house, and they loved it. In fact, they loved it so much that they asked me if they could come back to have a party. And I said yes. And what they did was they spread their parents' ashes at the house. And I thought that was great karma. And they gave me, yes, they gave me a picture. I asked them if I could have a picture of their parents, and they gave it to me. And it's on the windowsill in the kitchen. And I really like having a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Brown in the house, the original owners. And they lived there for a very long time.
That's so lovely, and that's so generous of you to have.
Well,
that to happen.
I believe you have to share these nice things, and I feel fortunate that I have it, and I like to share it. And this is a bunk room. It sleeps 6. I have 6 grandchildren, and there are antique bedspreads. I was able to find a bunch of them, and the curtains were made out of a quilt that I have. And these are catalog yellow bedspreads with American flag pillows. And the kids love it. It's really fun.
Well, I'll bet. I can't imagine that they really do much sleeping in there when they're all together. They must all be so excited to be together in the bunk
They do.
beds.
They have a good time. They really have fun.
I'm sure. Yeah.
That's a local Nantucket painter. And that's in my bedroom.
Oh, okay.
And that's the view from the front of the house.
So spectacular.
It's quite expansive, and Right beyond the water, straight ahead, is the ocean. This is a harbor. It's just very peaceful. It's a very peaceful spot. So this is one of two paintings on the right that I had bought in an antique show, and it went to storage. I knew I'd have either sell it or have a place to use it someday. My goal really was to sell it, but I ended up keeping it. But it's most perfect for this house. And here are 6 little hearts, one for each of my grandchildren. I actually had 5 grandchildren when I purchased these hearts, but I bought a 6th one just in case. And sure enough, a 6th one appeared. And this is a Nantucket compound. There are 2 houses. And,
so now tell us about this compound.
Okay. This is a very small house straight ahead.
Okay.
It's actually my house. I love showing the houses that I live in. I feel that it's my calling card, and a lot of work comes from showing my own homes. And I like sharing them with people. I like having parties and people in, and I like to cook. And I bought this house 38 years ago. It was very small. And I lived there for several years. And I was very fortunate that I was able to buy the house behind me. My children were growing up. They were out of college. And I bought my house very spontaneously. It's too long of a story to tell you, but it was very spontaneous. And it was so small, there was no room for my children. There was barely room for me and a parakeet, but I did buy it. And that was the reason I knew I needed another house. So again, a few years later, I was fortunate I could get it. And so you
started with this house, and then
I renovated the house behind me for my children. And I wanted it to be large enough so they could all, congregate there with their families. And it had to be more contemporary than what I did for myself. So it was really decorated for young people in mind. And they couldn't be happier. They love coming to Nantucket. And this is the kitchen garden in the big house. My house is the small house. The kids have the big house. And this is right off of the kitchen. In the summertime, all of these pots have flowers in them, and we have a lot of herbs that we use for cooking. We barbecue out here. And straight ahead is a little fountain with an antique mirror. So when you're out here, you hear the gurgle of the water, which is very peaceful. And up to the left is my little house. But this is a beautiful Japanese maple, and it's a very nice area to sit in. It's right, as I said, it's right off of the kitchen, which I think you will see. This is the little house. I had a major flood in this house 10 years ago and had the opportunity to enlarge it. It's still called the little house because it's really still small, but it's larger than what it was. And I decided one day to pick up all the carpeting that was there, and it just made it a lighter, younger look, just a totally different look. And these andirons are so huge, but they came from another house that I lived in. And I just decided I had to bring them with me. They're way out of scale, but I think they look fabulous in the room.
And tell me how that works when you sort of bring things from other places.
Well, it's wonderful because the homes that I have lived in are all about memories. And I share this with all of you out there. Buy things that you love when you're young, and they'll grow with you as you age, and you'll have memories of your life. You'll see your life story and all the good things that happen to you. And even the bad things are okay because, you've come this far. And I remember these andirons. They're way out of scale for the room, but I love the way they look. And a lesson to you out there, I've always felt that if I did it, it was appropriate and people would like it. And I hope that you will all feel that way about your own work. You just have to have confidence and, think you can't do any wrong. And you affect a virtue. You learn to trust yourself and enjoy yourself. And so I want you all to do that. I encourage you to buy things that you love and buy things that clients will love. And, I always tell clients, whatever you buy from me, you will always love and always take with you. And that's happened over the years. And I have clients that have been with me more than 30 years. So I guess they like the things I sold them. They've gone from house to house. So this is the big house. And as you see, it's much more contemporary. There are a few, more traditional things. The pair of consoles on the side used to be in my apartment in New York. and they had gray marble tops. So I just painted them using boat deck paint. I painted over the marble, which you can, if you ever want the marble back, you can just get rid of the paint. But it looks light and bright in this room. And to the left is the dining area, and straight ahead is another sitting area with a fireplace. But it's you can't see that because of the gold snail that's on the table there in the greenery. But it's a very light, airy house, and the kids love it. That's my faux Modigliani. I only have faux paintings. I don't have a Gauguin or a Modigliani, but it's a very nice painting. And it was painted by the wife of Milton Avery. She was an artist in her own right.
Oh,
and that's Sir Nelson, so Lord Nelson,
right,
looking out on the room.
Yeah, I love it.
And I've always liked folk art. And straight ahead is a painting. Many years ago, I had a farm, and I had all sorts of animals, and we had 40 donkeys. And so there's a donkey in the left-hand corner, and that's what drew me to that painting. And again, in this house, the downstairs does not have curtains. It has these pleated canvas window covers, which are really pretty, really wonderful. They're top up and bottom down. Sadly, the manufacturer went out of business, so they're no longer available. But I use them extensively in many clients' homes. That's another view of the tabletops that I painted. And this goes out to a garden. There were three double doors, and it goes out to a huge veranda that goes out to the yard. It's a very user-friendly house. This is part of the kitchen. And this kitchen has polyurethane rugs because all young children eat there. So anything that's spilled just gets picked up, with a sponge. And I use these rugs in every in a lot of homes. And actually, I have another project on Nantucket, and we have two of these rugs. One in the master bedroom because it was a very colorful rug that I had made, and one in the one of the children's rooms. Even though the child is grown, she just wanted something that was washable, and this was great. This is part of the kitchen, and this is going out looking towards the dining area, which has a white table with a metal base. It was a garden table that used to belong to the dealer that I purchased it from. Told me it was in her mother's garden. It was brown when I bought it, but I painted it over. And again, it has skin rugs, polka dot skin rugs, which can also be, mopped up with a sponge. This is the parlor. And just about everything in this room came from someplace else. The hook rug is somewhat exceptional. I bought it at one of the winter antique shows, and it's really very, very beautiful. You can't even see how pretty the colors are. But this tramp art mirror used to be in my son's room when he was young. And here's another antique swan picture, part of that collection out front. The lovely fireplace and the wood-paneled. There's wood paneling in the whole room, but there's something behind every door. So there's great storage. I'm a firm believer in having lots of storage in homes and apartments because we all collect as we get older. This is an office downstairs with these ship vignettes. And to the right of this is a television room, which also has another plastic rug because the kids tend to bring food down here. This house has 4 levels. So when they carry the food around, from floor to floor, you don't want to stain anything.
No, it all seems wildly practical. You thought of everything when it comes to that.
I tried.
And what is it to you that is so special about Nantucket? Why do people just light up when they talk about Nantucket?
Because it's intoxicating. When you get off of the airplane and that airplane door opens and you breathe that ocean air, you feel alive. I work very hard, as we all do. And yet Nantucket is my salvation. I get there and you go, you just unwind. I always say Nantucket is summer camp for old people. It's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, I'm so glad that you're going to be able to return and do some work there this summer, and I'm hopeful that everyone will be able to
I hope
feel
so.
better about coming out and getting to the beach and getting back out there.
I hope so. So I just also want to say that I'm writing a decorating book, and you'll see a lot of new projects in the book that we clients' homes, not my homes. And but I always like to show my homes. I like for people to see what I do, how I live, and share the things I love. But I look forward to the book and showing you,
Well,
more
and when
clients'
can we
homes.
expect that? When
Well,
can we expect the book?
I think it'll take a year and a half.
Okay.
They do take a long time.
They do. It's a
Stay
big
tuned.
undertaking.
Stay
Well,
tuned.
I admire you for taking on a book project, because it's a lot to bring all of that together.
Well, I think I'm the last decorator standing that hasn't written one, so I must do it, and I'm enjoying the process.
You're giving into that pressure finally to do the
Finally.
decorating book.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure seeing your homes, seeing your projects, and seeing your work. I really can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I would just like to say that to all of you young people watching this film, I just want to encourage you: have trust in yourself, have trust in your talent, and have trust in yourself as an individual. And don't be afraid. Just go forth. It's a challenge that you can all rise to. And I've been doing this over 40 years. I still love going to work every day. And I want you to have the same happiness in your work that I've had in mine all of these years. I count my work as a blessing, and I want it to be a blessing for you as well. So just go forth and have faith in yourself and enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, and that's a lovely sentiment, and I hope that everyone listening will get to enjoy their work as much as you have all these years, Susan, and to have found a career that seems like it's been as fulfilling as it has been is quite a gift. So I'm so happy that you have found that, and I appreciate you sharing it all with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us for another installment of our virtual Dialogues on Design series. We've got one more show planned for you this season. It's going to be a special one. Architectural Digest Decorative Arts editor Mitch Owens will be joining me to chat a bit about the design scene in New York City over the past century. You'll definitely want to tune in for that. My thanks to David Sprules, the Shade Store, and our guest, the charming and gracious Susan Zises Green. I'm grateful to all of our generous sponsors, board members, and subscribers, as well as to our producer, Jeremy Handelman, for making tonight's show possible. I'm Dennis Scully. For everyone here at the New York School of Interior Design, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time.